In the summer of 1812, the poet Lord Byron, England's most famous young celebrity, was trying to do something radical: break up. He'd fallen into an affair so public and unhinged that his own friends were packing his bags for him. On the table were dozens of letters from Caroline Lamb, a married aristocrat who had once called him mad, bad, and dangerous. Yet she had fallen for him hard. Outside, her carriage was circling. When she finally appeared, disguised as a servant, according to witnesses, she threatened to stab herself if Lord Byron wouldn't take her back. Later, she would send him letters sealed with blood and pubic hair. So deep was her obsession. And yet, without blaming the victim, we have to be fair enough to ask the question: what the hell did Byron do to garner this kind of attention from Lady Caroline? And why didn't anyone in high society try harder to stop this terribly toxic relationship? I like how you wrote up in the thing, without blaming the victim. So you think there's some culpability when someone keys your car? Do you think you did something to have that break through your window? Is that what you're saying?
I'm thinking. I think that in our we covered this as one of our very early episodes, like one of our first, and a lot of it was about how Caroline and Lord Byron were like they seemed like two peas in a pod to me. Like by the end of that article, it was like Caroline, like women be crazy in relationship, but then at the end of this, it was like, oh no, they both had a lot of faults. Like they both they were both participating in this relationship in a way that contributed to an amazing amount of toxicity, and we'll talk about what that looked like. Like that is actually the fun of their relationship, is how messed up it was.
Well,
but
I think they were each other's equals too. So what's funny about it, things haven't changed that much, but if you were seriously promiscuous as a man, that could make you famous and respected. But women had to keep this this perfect reputation, which doesn't seem very fair. She wasn't really Carolyn wasn't the virtuous, pristine woman, but she was just head over heels for Lord Byron. She betrayed her wedding vows, and she was actually a pretty good wife. She was known to be very, very tender-hearted. She took care of her disabled kid, even though she was of great means and owned lots of land. So she took care of her kid. She did a lot of things to help her husband's career, invest in him and politically. So she was a good wife. She just fell head over heels for this rock star. How do you explain Lord Byron's fame in today's?
Well, one, have you seen him? Like that dude looks dreamy, even like in the old images, in the paintings.
He's hot.
Yeah, but he was also like rich. He hung out with all of these like poets. He hung out with like Mary Shelley and like Percival Shelley, and he hung out with so many people who like ended up being like massive writers and poets of their era. So like not only is he hot, not only has the extreme like goth reputation that set the standard for what goths are, but on top of that, like he had a reputation for being almost like Van Wilder. Like there's stories about him in college when he was young where it's like he took a bear to college and like threw wild parties, and like he was the dude. Like
the most gregarious man that had ever lived. And at the time, poetry was that was music and writing. That was the genre that everyone followed, right?
That was being a rock star. And I think you found in the last episode we did about this years ago, you introduced me to the term Byromania, which wasn't made up today. That sounds like a today term for like if you have a K-pop band and like you're crazy about them, you put mania at the end of it. That was their term back then, which is nuts.
Now, Lady Caroline also, she was a writer herself, and she was very supportive of the writing community. So That would be. I've often wondered about this. If you're really famous and good looking, world famous, good looking, it must be hard for you to find people to date, right? Because you don't want to just date fans that are crazy about you and worship you. You want to date your equal,
Right. Like celebrities. Celebrities want to date other celebrities, kind
right?
of thing.
Just because their lifestyles are going to match up some, right?
Yeah.
Now, where's the line between love bombing and courting with Carolyn and Lord Byron? Because Lord Byron poured it on to get Carolyn just dead crazy about him. And how crazy? I think when you're cutting up blood and pubic hair to make a point.
Right.
How dark is that? Have you ever tried that as a form of getting someone back?
No. And the crazy part is, like, didn't she like put it in an envelope? like
Ew.
it yeah.
But it gets your attention though, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think that's the point. It's the I will not be ignored kind of thing.
Is this what I think it is kind of thing?
That's the Tinder we need to shut down if that ever happens. Now,
well,
okay,
I'm asking you though, where's the line between love bombing? Because love bombing is seen as unhealthy, right?
I wonder that. Okay, so that is a serious concern of mine. Is when you love bomb somebody, it almost feels like it is nefarious and tactful. When and when you are in love, you have the instinct to do that. You want to show them as much attention as possible, but also you have to recognize that like that's not a level of attention you can sustain. So like
sustainable, yeah,
right. So I usually think of not love bombing looks like, okay, here's the amount of attention I would normally give you. You know, you try to keep it kind of even keel, even though you're head over heels for somebody. But it's hard to recognize that. Like, can you yourself, when you are love bombing somebody, can you identify when you are in fact showing them the proper amount of attention? Like not proper as in like old Victorian, but like you know what's normal for you, right? Like when you get into a relationship and you've been in it for a couple of months, it slows down and it's like, okay, you know, I'm not writing you 10 letters a day and leaving all these like messages. You know, my closer to normal is I will, you know, I'll message you once or twice a day and I'll make you coffee in the morning. Like
it's
like I think
weird.
everybody
It goes through that.
everybody knows their norm.
It goes from that you can't breathe without that person to you get a little, I would say, annoyed with them. We had a friend who does our voiceover work for us and did some charity, and she told me you can go from that, and this is further down the road relationship where you go from that you're a tad bit annoyed with the person to that ick of them. And she said as soon as you get the ick, you don't love them anymore. And I thought, oh no, because you can see how it would be a slippery slope. So you go from everything to, you know, where you're hanging on their every word. And then when they say something, you're cutting their sentences off. You know what I mean? And you know that you're doing it. You don't like, you say, I need to be more patient with this person because it wasn't that long ago that I was starved for their attention.
Right. So we all need to be able to rush to that slight ick phase. No, I'm kidding. I'm being facetious. We really, but being mindful of like, is this my normal amount of love that I would show somebody, or am I trying to overwhelm them? And if I remember correctly from our original episode, they met like at a party, and it was scandalous that they were together because, like, you said it, she had a husband, she had kids. This was not a mooning teenager. This was a grown woman who caught bioromania, and he made it so much worse. Like his flirt style was like show a huge amount of love bomb attention, like you're talking about, and then ignore her for a while, and then like vacillate back and forth, which sounds toxic as hell.
I'm still laughing about this Van Wilder bringing the bear to the party, like, and that's the stuff we know about. He was just such a bad boy, you know. He was just such a drunk and fun guy.
Yeah.
If any of us could have 2% as much fun as Lord Byron had in his life, he sure had.
there was a time where Mary Shelley lost her husband Percival, who wrote the poem Ozymandias. That, you know, if you've ever seen Breaking Bad, it was one of their promos. Um, and Lord Byron and Mary Shelley went out to like pay respects to Percival. And being the goth kids that they were, they decided to burn Percival on a pyre at the beach to sort of like be like, okay, well, he drowned at sea. He loved sailing. That's how he died. So we're going to respect that. And they burned him. And Byron and Mary Shelley noticed that when they burned his body, there was a lump of him left behind. It looked like an organ, like it was a shriveled fist-shaped organ. And they're like, oh, it's his heart. You know, and Mary Shelley was like, you know, do you think I should take it? And Byron kind of encouraged her. And so she took her own husband's heart, or she thought it was his heart, and put it in her purse and had it, like, I think it was either embalmed or encased in silver, something like that. Again, goth kids. And then later on, a doctor informed her that when you die from drowning, your liver fills with water, and then putting it on the pyre probably shriveled it quite a lot. So she was carrying around her husband's waterlogged liver for years. So
that's a good,
crazy,
good
crazy
metaphor
rock star
for his
goth
heart, right?
kids.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think that one of the terms we used in our love episode about, like, we had a whole episode where we talked about the stages of love and oxytocin and like what types of hormones you get at different stages, that once you get past the dopamine stage, where it's just all love all the time, love bombing almost to a toxic level, you can't stop thinking about them. Then you sort of settle into comfort stages where, okay, you know, I make a ritual out of hugging them or like putting my hand on their shoulder or caressing them or whatever. And instead of getting the constant high from it, you in fact shift to sort of like just a comfort around each other. That's the aim, because that is sustainable. That's the one that lasts for 10, 20, 30 years. Is affection well-timed and not bombing them, but consistent bids for attention being paid to.
Do you think people have different gas tank needs for relationships? You know, we throw away the high maintenance.
Yeah.
Or throw that word up there, but go ahead.
I was going to say, I absolutely do. And I was going to ask pretty much right away what yours is, because everybody's got, like, there are some people who they can sustain themselves off of like a hug and a kiss in the morning and a cup of coffee together. And then they watch a TV show at night together, and that's perfectly fine for them. It works great. There are other people where they need pretty constant. The Gottman Institute calls it a bid for attention. When somebody comes up to you and like asks a question like, "Hey, how you feeling?" Or like, you know, "What did you think about, you know, the game last night?" Or, you know, "What do you want to do later for dinner?" Like, a bid for attention is just, we're going through our day, we're both busy, but I want to know your thoughts on something.
Or you're the wisest, most hardworking man. I couldn't live without you. You're so sexy. You're so this. Or you're the most gorgeous woman. And well, this is where people get into affairs, right? Because you get starved for attention. Yeah. I think you know that old joke on Valentine's Day. There's people who are lonely because they're not in a relationship, and then there's people who, half of the people are lonely because they're in a relationship.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people are getting their emotional needs met in a relationship. I think I know that when I was married the first time, it was the loneliest times of my life.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I don't know that I don't think I have a huge gap. I don't think I need a lot, but I need to feel important. I need to feel smart, you know? I don't know. And
well, do you feel like this is kind of a more of a question? Do you feel like a lot of those relationships you get into, if you felt lonely in a relationship, in a marriage or something, is it because you started out, both of you love bombing, and then by the end of it, neither of you were doing anything? Like it settled out to,
yeah, you become roommates, and then it
yeah,
all fizzles. It's not romantic. It's not fun. It's not even respectful, right?
Yeah.
You're nicer to everybody. You're sweeter to everyone but that person. You're sweeter to your neighbor. You're sweeter to the person you talk to, and I don't like that about myself, that I've become that person. where it's
Yeah.
almost like you're a fake nice guy. And then to the person who you love and live with, you have no patience.
Right. And that lack of patience, oftentimes when people get to that level, they try to compensate when they're like, oh my God, my relationship is making me miserable. How am I going to, bring joy back into my life? And they do that by infrequently showing attention to their partner again. Like they're like, let's patch things up. And they, yeah.
Or when, yeah, exactly. Just to kind of, to as like a treaty for the war. Or if the person's getting ready to leave them, then they'll love bomb again to get that fish back in the boat. And then
Right.
go right back to neglect.
So
it wears off like a shower, it shows like a daily bathing.
that pattern and us talking about it, this is our defense of Caroline Lamb and Byron. When we first did this episode, it was basically like, aren't these two, they so crazy? And looking at them and being like, this is what a absolute toxic relationship looks like. But you and I shared an article that was basically in defense of Caroline Lamb, and basically in defense of like, okay, yes, she was acting nuts, and it was very dramatic, but like Byron was really bad about doing exactly what we're saying. Like if you look at his letters and you look at his patterns and you look at like our previous episode, we put it down to familiarity effect, where the familiarity effect is you are attracted to the people who remind you of like your family. And Lord Byron's family is terrible, and Caroline Lamb's family is terrible. Like Byron's father was like a drunken abuser who like cheated on his mom or something like that.
This familiarity principle is, I don't think a lot of people are familiar with this. I know I wasn't until I started working with you. So I'll give you an example. Let's say your father's an alcoholic, right? And he was not a particularly kind man, right? But he wasn't. He was sweet at times, and would really love bomb you certain things. Well, you can become attracted to, when you get older, and attracted to a romantic someone. Alcoholic, there's a certain smell that they have from drinking all night. There's lines on their face. There's a dehydration. You really aren't aware of all these things, right? A lot of them are micro things. And so, and we've all had that feeling of, why do I like this person this much? This person is not that great, because there's a lot of just comfort in something that we know, that we're familiar with. And so it's dangerous because it's not all good. Some of it's good, but I think what do you think? It's 50-50?
I think so. Well, the example I used, I think, and actually applies to both Byron and Caroline, ironically, is I came from a very, like, you're right. I had I don't know if you're using that example or if you were just calling out my family, but I had alcoholic parents, and they were erratic in the love they showed. And so I knew pretty quickly that I was attracted to people who were inconsistent with the affections they showed. And ironically, that same alcoholism and inconsistency showed up in Byron and Caroline's relationship. Like the infidelity wasn't the worst part. The worst part is how they treated each other with the inconsistent attentions. But I also was attracted to critical people, which is ironic because I married one of the least critical people of me. Like I married somebody who was like extraordinarily affectionate and accepting, but I knew right away, like early on, especially when I started taking classes early, is I was like, oh no, I am attracted to family members who or people who react like my family to being questioned, where they use sarcasm and judgment as a weapon. Like it's a sport to them to point out flaws and to do it in clever, funny ways, almost like it's a roast. And I was like, yeah, roasting each other is normal. That's every day. You should do that. Like that's fun. And no, it's not. Like that is a toxic behavior.
Well, that's one of the very common ones, is people see someone who's critical of things as intelligent. They say, oh, this person's smart, or this person's helping me, pointing out my flaws and making me better, which is total hogwash bullshit, whatever. Right? It's just, it could just be mean, right? It isn't that hard. It's not that. See, and this shows how arrogant you are. I wasn't talking about your family. I have an alcoholic family too. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
How dare you?
Turn this
Joe
back
thinks
around.
Joe thinks he's the only person who has bad people around him. That's an ego issue.
I'm the only one who
Of
suffered.
course, you're talking about me. Who
Yeah.
else would you speak of? These writers are all assholes. Lord Byron and Joe, similarly arrogant.
At least I never brought a bear into my classes. Like that's so the article we did cover for this one, it's more in defense of Caroline Lamb. And I actually was going to ask you about a moral judgment on this. The article is basically making it seem like she fell susceptible to basically the K-pop band of her era, a super attractive man who had a lot of keys and like, you know, a lot of high society connections, and basically, you know, she was high society too, but he was playing with what he was familiar with. Like Byron had this game down pat by the time Caroline ran across him. It seemed mutual, but he was both abusive and worse at cutting off attention at key moments. He almost like did it intentionally, where like he would show affection and then he'd stop when he felt like she might not be paying as much attention as he wanted. Like when he wanted things to be exciting again, he would withhold his affections. He would stop, you know, communicating with her, and then all of a sudden love bomb her again.
He's just
And
toying with her, like really
yeah,
toying with her emotions, and really being narcissistic. And like he was playing chess and she's playing checkers, and he kind of knew that. So
yeah. And I do kind of side with this article. Like I am actually slowly reversing my position on the toxic relationship between the two. Absolutely toxic, and absolutely they both participated in it. But now that I have read more about how reward and attention works, I'm with the author that we covered today. Do you want to talk about like the psychological effect of that's going on, like why that sudden attention, reward, and then stopping the reward and then picking it back up again, why that is dangerous?
well, I kind of want to learn how you could like train me on how to use it in a good way, right?
Okay.
Without, without, because sometimes I can come off as over the top of too, and I would say too nice, but too needy, I guess you'd say, too starved for attention and giving. How do you kind of feed it in a safe way?
Right. That's a good way of putting it, is if you do feel like love bombing somebody, what's a way you can do that where it's not going to like either set the bar too high to where you can't continue it, or do it in an unhealthy way? Like we want to look at what's healthy love bombing. How do we give attention in a way that's sustainable and also that isn't toxic, especially if you have that in your family history like mine, or if you are normally attracted to that. So first I want to talk about an experiment. This happened in the early eras of psychology. And the experiment was, what if you, this is going to sound horrible, what if you go to pet a dog one day when you're in the laboratory, and then the next day you shock them, like you carry a tiny taser that just doesn't seriously hurt them, but they know that they've been zapped. This is about dopamine consistency and reward consistency. And the way it works is, over time, this was a long running experiment. It's been backed up by pretty much everything, and it's an old science. We know this. I'll get to the part about casinos and how they use it. You basically, if you give a creature, especially mammals, a reward every time you see them, they start to expect it. That's what love bombing does. That's what, if you want to get hooked on something like an addiction, like a casino or something, everything basically works the same for our brain's reward system, where, you will expect, if I give you a treat every time I see you, you'll start to expect it and you'll start salivating before I enter the room. If you know I'm on my way and you just start associating me with like I hand you a donut every time I see you, then that is an expectation. Like you'll start building dopamine in your head in expectation when I enter. Yeah, the term for it is Pavlovian response. That's the psychologist that originally coined this, and it was, if a dog knows that he gets a treat every time I enter the room, he'll start salivating before I arrive. So like his salivary glands will start dripping. He'll want the reward, and his brain will be like, "Oh yay, we get food now, we get attention now. Here's some dopamine to get me ready for it." If half the time I walk into the room and instead of giving you a treat, I backhand you or I yell at you, does that make you more or less willing to do tasks for me? Like, does it make you try to impress me more? Does it make you, more apt to help me with things?
Well, I would hope that it would make you run the other way, but I think what it makes you, I think because there's some love and some pain, it makes you think that you deserve it, and that, you want to win this person over, so you so you only get reward.
Right. And you're dead on with that. That is actually what they found is, if you only bring treats, it gets boring, but your brain will still be like, here's a little dopamine in anticipation. If you only bring pain, like if you only punish, they will immediately turn on you. Like they'll realize the pattern and they'll just dislike you.
This to me seems like the UFC fighters and the boxers, at the professional level. You think, well, how could they do this to themselves? Get a broken nose, ruin their legs, have all this huge physical pain, right? You can see it on their faces. Their faces are mangled, right? But then when they win, it's worth it. But without the loss, right? It's like it's what you're talking about. That teeter-totter.
Yeah, it's you mix in the rewards with the punishments, and people can go forever. Like the Robert Sapolsky, a huge psychologist, was like, the key to keeping people hooked on something is just introducing the word maybe. Which is to say, if you're sitting at a slot machine and every 2 out of 3 pulls, you get a punishment. It takes your money away, but every once in a while it gives it back, and it makes really positive, chirpy sounds at you, and lights flash, and you feel overwhelmed. If that just happens once in a while, you can sit there forever. Like, you'll take the punishments as long as the good times are really good and a big treat.
So back to the casino. That's when the cocktail waitress comes and gives you the drink, right?
Right.
It says keep that kind of
yeah,
that smile and that free something, like
the hot girl treats you as a winner, and you get a drink, and exactly. And that's a huge reward on top of the little tiny rewards here and there. But that's also how treats work in these experiments, where dogs that get if it's unpredictable when they get punished and unpredictable when they get a reward, they'll do something forever. Like they will perform a task or do work forever. Same thing with us is if we introduce ourselves to somebody, they're exciting, they're sexy, they're fun, they give us rewards, like they love bomb us, and then like once in a while they ignore us, or once in a while they like start, their treats aren't as good, or they don't pay as much attention to us, or they forget our birthday. But then they come back at Christmas and they're the life of the party, and they show us so much love and attention that it's overwhelming again. That's what will keep us on the hook basically forever. Like it's a terrible, toxic thing to do. And like just go back to the dog experiments. When I told you I'm going to zap a dog every other time that I walk into his kennel, it made you uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
like nobody wants to hurt other people or other things. It's not in our nature, unless you're like 2% of society and you're a sociopath. But like it's one of those things where it's something that we have figured out can work indefinitely. And so we do it. We use it because it does work. Same thing goes with your job. Your boss can be an absolute monster half the time, or about that. And then once in a while you get a great Christmas bonus, or once in a while you get extreme recognition, like you are the star of the show at work, and it feels like you just won you won the big game, and everybody's hoisting on their shoulders. And then like 2 days later you're back to being criticized.
But isn't that how, like, I see you as an intellectual. Do you ever think that, in a debate with somebody, with a coworker or somebody, a colleague of some sort, if you point out what a big mistake they are and how wrong they are, almost like just destroy them in a debate, that gives you some kind of power, like it puts them back in their place, and then you can kind of build them up later. Does this make sense?
Yes.
And
Uh,
maybe you think you keep it to yourself socially, but you think I could tell them this, and this, and that.
you're right, and that works. It if you give them the back and forth reward of like you destroy them, and then you come back later and you're like, hey, that was just business. That was just the nature of debate. Now I want to work with you on something. I want your help, or I want you to I'm gonna push your project up, and I'm gonna like assist you. It's the exact same thing. Like we're focusing on Caroline Lamb and Byron and saying Byron did these things. He would huge rewards, huge attention, and then long periods of silence, and like making her come to him and making her like be interesting again. But that works in everything. It works in addiction. It works in work and relationships. It works in basically every facet of life, even like when it comes to products. It's not just suckering somebody, it is being inconsistent with your rewards and making it random. That randomization of reward is how you both be a dirtbag but also get the most out of somebody. So
Well, this does sound like the 2%, me, I. But the problem is if you give, and I have been on this side of this, not a lot, but I've been, and maybe it didn't get to the point where I was stopping giving. That person gave up on me and decided they didn't want to be in a relationship with me, whether it's work or whatever.
yeah.
But if you're, I hate this saying, I hate it coming out of my mouth. You ever been accused of being too nice, or have your friends tell you you're too nice?
I have, yeah. People pleaser. I've been
Yeah,
told I'm a
yeah.
people
You
pleaser.
want everyone to like you and everything. Well, nobody likes to be that person either, right? You want to have some kind of pride and dignity.
Yeah. Um if anybody wants to look this up, like the studies, and figure out like how people use this in relationship, it is called the term is intermittent reinforcement, um, which it the term you used earlier, Todd. You said somebody who runs hot and cold. I've heard you use that before, and I think you even used that during our original episode. But that term is describing intermittent reinforcement. It's sometimes you punish them, sometimes you love bomb them, and making that random is keeping somebody on the hook indefinitely, basically. Um, so do you want to sort of like get into the self-aware part where we explore how we stop that, or like if there's one piece of advice, one trick that gets you out of this, or recognize when somebody is doing it? How do you instantly know if somebody's being toxic to you? Do you feel like discussing that and turning
Yeah,
this
I want to be able to
uh,
recognize it, and I want to be able to do it.
okay. By the way, I did completely, well, related, but also like not quite on our script. Have you heard that there are criticisms of the book Emotional Intelligence because people learn too many tricks from it?
Say that again.
I was reading an article the other day, and they were talking about how Emotional Intelligence, the book, we both read it. They handed it out at my workplace once. Like it is the standard now for teaching somebody or priming somebody for how to be emotionally intelligent, how to be
Oh yeah,
to be self-aware.
I'm rolling my eyes right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it really became corporate. Um, well, it's we're talking about intermittent reinforcement. How do you recognize it and use it? And you joked, how do I use that intentionally? That is something that the book Emotional Intelligence has come under fire recently for, which is it makes sociopaths and manipulators better at being sociopathic and manipulating.
It's like a serial killer's handbook.
Exactly. So if you have a terrible boss and you hate their guts and you see them reading Emotional Intelligence, slap it out of their hand, because they're going to come and use those tricks on you. that book is about to be their arsenal.
I'm uncomfortable right now because I've seen lots of people who have a lot of money and they're successful and they're just such jerks, right? But what they do with their spouses is they will buy them expensive things and then just treat them like absolute garbage. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I can see how that would be, you get a new car, but you have to live with this person. You're in a mansion, but you have to live with this person, right? It's just this like extreme, strings attached, as Joe likes to say. Strings attached.
Yeah. So if and it's always easier to spot this from the outside. So like if what we're about to go over, being able to spot intermittent reinforcement and Lord Byroning somebody, everybody has seen their best friend or their girlfriend or their boyfriend. Like they've seen people go through this. And from the outside, it is much easier to see. You're like, oh my God, no, they're manipulating you. Like, this is toxic. Get out now. But to recognize it yourself, like here's some kind of ways to see it, and ways if you want to, be evil and use it against somebody, which I don't recommend. First off, if you do one thing, it's to track the pattern and not the person. And what I mean by this is, let's take it back to Lord Byron. Caroline Lamb fell in love with the rock star. She loved him because he was sexy, loved him because he was a poet. He had a deep heart. He was interesting. He had world experience. He was exciting. He was thrilling as a both a lover and a romantic fling. But she was tracking the person. Like, she judged all that based on his character, his merits, and how much the world wanted him. But if you track the pattern instead, if you say, okay, this person is amazing, they're like, they're a 10. But this pattern of theirs is terrible. It makes it very, very evident. So like, get a spreadsheet, get a piece of paper, get a cocktail napkin, and just track on which days they're positive toward you. This is very stupid and very simple. No one does it.
It's a spreadsheet. It is that simple, right? I was thinking like you had some playing cards and like,
oh no,
shuffle them up.
Here's an even simpler way to do it. Have a day calendar, like hang a calendar from Walmart on your wall. Get a red sticker and a green sticker, like you're gonna have a garage sale. And like on the days that they pay attention to you and you feel like they were very sweet to you, put a green sticker. On the days that they were shitty to you or ignored your texts or didn't get back to you, put a red sticker. And that's the pattern. That's very simple.
I could do this. I like it using stickers. You're speaking my simple language. So then I don't have to read or write anything out. I can just look at the colors.
Right. It's like, oh man, that's a lot of red. But tracking a pattern is, there's a lot of emotions and complexity when you're trying to unwind a person. But if you're looking at a pattern of a person, it's so much easier to see it. And intermittent reinforcement only works when you chase the next hit and you're not recognizing the schedule of the hit. So if you look at the odds at a casino and you see that 1 in 5 pulls of the slot machine pays out, and of those 1 in 5 1 in 20 gives you your money back for those pulls, then you realize that you're totally screwed. So like, anytime you track the pattern with any kind of reinforcement at work, people do this. Yeah.
So are you doing this to know how to manage this person? Are you doing this to confront this person? Or are you doing this as like a red flag to get out of a relationship? How do you use that?
Well, that's kind of part of it is the choice, and the power is up to you once you recognize it. Because if you see it, like if you have it on a calendar or you have the evidence in front of your face, that's when you kind of have to act. And the choice is, do you leave them, or do you like tell them, hey, you're really inconsistent with your emotions. Would you be willing to, if you believe there's something salvageable there, that's when you confront them and say, would you be willing to provide more? And that's the adult conversation that's going to feel uncomfortable. Putting stickers on a calendar is the easy part. The hard part is going up to somebody and saying, I very much value you. You are the person I want to be around. You're inconsistent with some of your affections. And I'm giving you the opportunity to say whether or not you can provide more. And that's something that, I mean, like Caroline Lamb did not do that. She sent him cut up pubes in an envelope and said, I will not be ignored, and showed up at his house while he was getting packed to run and literally flee the city because she had gotten so crazy. and instead of going up to him and being like, because the scary part is if she had gone up and asked him how much emotional support are you willing to provide me, how much affection are you willing to bring me day to day, and are you willing to be consistent? Because the answer, unfortunately, is probably not what she wanted. Like Byron probably would have answered with, I've got a lot of ladies in the wings. You're fun for now. Like I think people don't track the pattern when they know the answer deep down is going to be, you're not going to get what you want, or they're not willing to invest that much attention into you.
That is right. I kind of like this charting though. I think I like it because it's kind of as someone who runs on 100% emotion, it's hard for me to understand. You know what I mean? Until I see it, and that it kind of gives you that third person perspective, like you said, that the person outside can see it so clearly. You just kind of look at the stats, right?
Right, and the calendar won't try to talk you into dumping somebody. Like you can see it and you can decide for yourself, like, oh man, yeah, this pattern is bad. But then again, if your friend sees it, they'll be like, dump them now. Like you there's the added pressure of a calendar won't judge you if you decide to stick with somebody who is doing you wrong or not paying you enough attention. But the trick isn't necessarily to break up with somebody; it's to break the pattern. Because the pattern is what feels like oxygen. Like if you don't recognize when you're getting intermittent reinforcement, you don't recognize when you're getting zapped half the time and attention half the time. If you can't see it, then you can't even start to confront it. You can't even really think or talk about it honestly, unless you start, recognizing that. Once you get that oxygen back, then you can figure out, okay, here's how my reward circuits and dopamine system are being hijacked like a slot machine. And the long-term fix for this is either getting someone to admit that they are willing to give you more attention, or they say they're not willing to. That's the long term. And then the very long term is find boring consistency. And this is going to make everybody yawn and roll their eyes. But if you naturally gravitate toward chaos like me, or if you naturally gravitate toward people who are like cynical and they verbally spar with you and they confront you and they like, if criticism is their way of communicating, for me, that was exciting when I was younger, when I still had that in my head that it's like, oh yeah, that's familiar.
It's the hunt. It's the hunt and the chase is exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
to get someone who doesn't want you to want you. You know what I mean? That's kind of that's Hollywood, right?
Yeah. But long-term life goals for a partner, you should be looking for somebody who just gives you steady kindness. It'll feel flat and even dull because your brain has been trained to confuse chaos with passion. You want that Lord Byron, you want that Caroline Lamb where it's all very fiery. But if you can sit through a quiet stretch without like running screaming back to dramatic people, then you'll start retraining your reward system.
I'm laughing because I've just had I know exactly what you're saying. These terrible relationships that I've misinterpreted as, I love them.
Yeah. I love them. You don't know them like I do. Yeah, they're exciting. Exactly. You don't recognize that.
And why are the sexy ones always so crazy?
I know. Like when you're at like a nice dinner and somebody attractive walks by, you should like whistle quietly to your friend and be like, oh my God, I bet she gives consistent attention and rewards through a relationship. Oh boy. And then you get slapped for being an asshole. Then your friend is like, get out. Don't hang out with me anymore. Okay. Do you have any other relationship advice? You've been in more relationships than I have, and for longer. So I don't want to like take this over with just like my psych mumbo jumbo of the stuff I've read. So like, if you have some wisdom for us, I would really appreciate it.
I was on and off again relationship that was very unhealthy for about a decade, and I was when I was reading, doing the homework for this episode, it just brought it back to me like it was yesterday. And this person would be on with one man and then on with me back and forth, and it was exhausting. And what I noticed from courting her and then in other relationships I was in that were similar, because I've had some that were similar that just didn't last as long as that one. I would get very insecure about that other person. I would become fiercely competitive with that person. And I remember hearing what kind of profession they had, what kind of education they had. I would find a way, Joe, to be insecure. So if either they were smarter than me, they were more successful, more educated, or they're better looking, or they're better sexual, I would just be looking for a way to think of not good enough and trying to win this person over. And what I would do is what salespeople do is you ask a lot of questions, and some of them I would just ask up front, like an interview. But they complain about their significant other, right? Yeah. So you start to think, hey, if I fill all those boxes, they're going to love me more than this person, right? Doesn't that make sense to you?
I can fill the gaps.
Yeah. And then you don't understand when they still go back to that person who they've told. Now, as an older person, I realize they're not telling you the whole story, because of what you're to this push pull. There's more to them than they're just telling you the bad parts of the movie, I think. Or is it more what you're talking about? They still need that dopamine. They still need that attention from that person too. They need it from you too. It's weird. It's just so unhealthy.
Yeah. I think that is ultimately one of the things that might shock people if they ever do this exercise, is not just realizing if somebody in their life is toxic or not, or if they use intermittent reinforcement or not, but also recognizing how often they need that attention and from how many different people. If you need to keep 3 or 4 different calendars with different stickers for different people in your life that you need attention from, that may be something worth tracking.
I remember my ex-wife told me, she's one of the wisest street smarts I've ever known. And she would always tell me these stories about how women feel about men, and how there's usually one guy that they really like, but then there's these second and third guys that are kind of the backups.
Yeah.
And if that one guy calls, she'll come running. That's her Lord Byron, right? But there's these other guys who have other things that she admires and that she likes. She does care for them, and some would even say love, but it's not the same, And the Lord Byron, we always think, well, he's going to be the biggest winner in them. That's not particularly true. It sounded like Carolyn's actual husband was a better long-term partner for her than Lord Byron was.
Yeah. To put things into terms that you're using, I think her husband was a 6, Lord Byron was a 9, and Caroline was somewhere in between. And when Byron called, she came running.
You really dumbed that down. I appreciate that. We got to make a quote out of that. You've been listening to The Re-Engineered You. Thank you so much for listening to the show. You mean the world to us.
You can find us at www.re-engineeredyou.com. That's where we have research links, show notes, and feedback.
We're not experts in anything, but we've got an opinion on everything.